My name is Kathy Mingy. I work at the North Carolina Zoo, where I'm the Associate Curator of Behavioral Management. My education background is two bachelor's degrees. I have a bachelor's in marine science and a bachelor's in psychology. Those are from Coastal Carolina University in South Carolina. And then I have a master's and PhD in experimental psychology focused on animal learning and behavior from the University of Toledo. I have completed an internship with the U.S. Navy Marine Mammal Program. So they have dolphins and sea lions that they use for research, for protection, for all sorts of various programs. And I interned with them when I was in college. And then while I was in grad school, I volunteered at the Toledo Zoo, which was the zoo closest to me, and I did work in their behavioral department doing enrichment and monitoring, doing small research projects. I definitely think internships or work-based experiences are important because you're getting hands-on real knowledge of what the potential career path is. So for example, when I was interning with the Navy, I started with a marine science degree, and through my internship, I realized that I was a lot more interested in what animals are capable of learning and less interested in their naturalistic behavior. So I actually picked up my psychology degree at that point. And I was close enough to finishing my marine science degree that I kept it, but doing my internship changed my education path and helped me decide to go on to get my master's and PhD, more what I was interested in long term. And if I hadn't done an internship, I don't know if I would have known what my real interests were or what I wanted to explore further in an education setting compared to my career path. So a lot of people in my career path just have bachelor's degree, and they have bachelor's degree in all sorts of things. Psychology, animal sciences, biology, wildlife management. But for me personally, psychology was the route that I wanted to go, and I didn't realize that initially when I started school, because I thought I wanted to be a dolphin trainer, and how do you become a dolphin trainer? Marine science, because they're marine animals. And then doing the work-based experience, I did that for many years. I did it for about probably 3 to 4 years volunteering. And because I was there for such a long time, I really got to hear and explore more about the career and what it really was, which is hugely valuable when you're making a decision about what you think you're going to do for the rest of your life. So I work for the North Carolina Zoo. So the purpose of our company is to educate people on wildlife, wild things. We focus a lot on, of course, animals as a zoo. But we also have huge conservation efforts. So the purpose of a modern zoo is to educate and to build empathy for our natural resources. A lot of people would never see an elephant in their real life. A lot of us aren't going to Africa or to Asia. So by having elephants here in the U.S. at zoos, people can see them, and we know that when you can see something and have a more real experience, that you're more likely to feel empathy for that, which can then encourage behavior change, things like conservation efforts in your own home, recycling, minimizing your use of resources to have a bigger impact, whether that's on your local environment or your worldwide environment. And then the other thing that zoos do by having these animals here is actually protect their wild counterparts. So at the North Carolina Zoo, one of our huge projects is red wolves. Red wolves are essentially extinct in a natural environment, and we work with a variety of zoos and the government to breed red wolves for release. So while we do have some red wolves here that are on exhibit, most of our red wolves are off exhibit. The public doesn't interact with them. Our keepers have very minimal interaction with our red wolves so that we can try to release them and rebuild a wild population. So we're actively trying to protect and save animals in their natural habitats by having them here at the zoo. My current position is the Associate Curator of Behavioral Management, which means that I'm in charge of anything behavioral management related across the entire zoo. So in really simple terms, I oversee our animal training and enrichment programs. But behavioral management is about making sure that our animals can be animals, making sure that they have the resources they need to do species-specific behaviors, and making sure that they are doing those species-specific behaviors as appropriate. So that might be something like an animal having the space to move in the way that they should move, that they have trees if they should be a tree-dwelling animal. And if we can't have trees, then that they have structures that allow them the same movement, making sure that they're getting their food in a species appropriate way. So we're never going to give our lions the chance to actually hunt, but how can we make sure that they have the ability to process meat in the same way? So our lions get bones, they get big chunks of meat, but other days they get small chunks of meat. Some of our animals are fasted because that would be normal for them in a natural environment. A hunter is not going to be successful every day. And then with their training, that we're working to minimize the stress of participating in their human care, seeing guests, seeing vets. So what can we do to make sure that they're experiencing the best quality of life? So through enrichment, through habitat design, we're encouraging their species appropriate behaviors, and then through training, we're encouraging them to participate in those behaviors so that we can minimize their stress. So our animals here, most of them are trained for things like vaccines. So just like we go to the doctor, we get shots, the vets go to the animals and they get shots, and shots can be stressful for people and animals. So we want to work with our animals so that they know what's coming and that they can participate in that, and it's not a stressful, scary experience. I got to my current position through all of my previous experience, actually. I think one of the things that people do sometimes is they forget that experience that doesn't seem relevant can be relevant. So previous jobs, I worked in retail and I worked managing a gym, and that built customer service skills and supervisory skills and management skills that might not seem relevant to working in a zoo. But ultimately, a zoo is here as a customer service-based industry. So those jobs were relevant to getting my current position, both from interacting with guests, but also through managing staff. And then I was an animal keeper for a number of years, which obviously is directly relevant to my job, managing animals and working with zookeepers. So I worked with a variety of species. I worked with horses, sheep, dogs, chickens. I worked with elephants. I worked with tigers and orangutans and gibbons. So I have a variety of keeper experience, which helped me get my position because I'm in charge of the entire collection of animals. So I don't focus on a specific subset. The keepers do all the work, but I'm here to help support them, guide them, and so I need to know a little bit about a lot of different animals to do that because we have a lot of different animals here. And I was also a teacher for a little while. So I was a college professor when I got out of grad school. And so my current job combines all of that. It combines the customer service, it combines the animal training, and it combines the education experience of getting resources to the keepers or throughout the zoo to our educators, and teaching things to them in a way that works for them. Sometimes I'm really good at it and sometimes I'm still learning, but I have that background of all of those different positions coming together to get my current job. I absolutely always wanted to do what I'm doing now. I am the classic case of going to SeaWorld when I was a little kid and falling in love and deciding that that's what I wanted to do. I have never worked with marine mammals outside of my internship, but I've always wanted to work in the zoo or aquarium industry. So my position now has been sort of like my long-term goal from the time that I was probably in late elementary school or middle school, probably like 8, 9, 10 years old is probably when I really like remember going to SeaWorld and figuring out that it was a real job that you can actually have. And then as I got a little bit older, my goals changed a little bit from just wanting to be a dolphin trainer to wanting to become what we call in the zoo world or museum world a curator, which is sort of the management or leadership level to help build that program. Right now, my future career goals are really focused on my current position to expand our programs here at the North Carolina Zoo, but also to get involved more with national programs. So I would love to build out a really robust training program here. We've already laid the groundwork, but continue to expand that here. And to also build out resources that we can use nationally or internationally to help zoos that maybe don't have my position. My position is a pretty new position within the zoo field. So there's a lot of facilities that don't have the background in training that could benefit from having resources. So we have something called AZA, which is our accreditation board, the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. And so I'm involved at AZA doing behavior, husbandry, enrichment training, building out those programs for other AZA zoos. And then how can we support that so that every zoo is increasing their welfare standards across the board. My advice to young students that are exploring career options or life goals is to talk to people that are doing the thing that you think you might be interested in, and don't be afraid to change your mind from hearing about things, exploring unique careers. But when you're exploring, think about what are your actual life goals and not just what are you interested in, because you can explore your passions in different ways. So some of us are lucky that our job is something that we enjoy every day, but other people might be more interested in getting a paycheck and exploring their passions at home. So thinking about how do you really want to spend your time, how much do you care about loving your job versus tolerating your job, how much do you care about your passion being your moneymaker, because maybe your personality, you think if this is what I'm doing every day and it's how I'm surviving, I'm going to lose my interest in it. And maybe you don't want to lose your interest in it. Maybe you really want a passion project that's on the side. And thinking about the things that maybe don't seem relevant, like where do you want to live? For zoos and aquariums, you can't live everywhere. They're only in certain places. So is there a state or a city or an area that you really feel like that needs to be where you are? Then you need to make sure that you're exploring careers that fit that location. But asking people and finding out the truth about the job and what are the positives and negatives of the job, because sometimes we forget that there are going to be downsides. So in the zoo world, the big downsides for us are that animals need people 365 days a year. And that means that we're here on Saturdays and Sundays. It means that we're here on rainy days and snowy days. And it means that we're here on Christmas and Thanksgiving and Easter and birthdays. It means that we have minimum staffing levels, that not everybody can have the same day off. So that's a huge downside for some people, because it means that maybe your family life is harder. Maybe you can't see your spouse or your kids as much as you'd like to because you're at work on Saturday. And that's okay, either for the short term or the long term, depending on what you're looking for out of life. So it's important to really think about what the downsides are when you're looking at careers. And the only way you're going to know is asking people, and asking them pointedly, because nobody's going to share the worst part of their job unless you're specifically asking to explore it, right? We always talk about the high points, but when you're thinking about what you want to do, you need to think about what are the potential limiting factors here as well.